Social Podcast, brought to you by Another World Media and After the Box Movement. It's time for real talk with real people. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Social Podcast. This is your host, Mona Cedillo. I am here with a multi-talented human being, very well known in our community in Denver. He does fantastic work. He is a triple threat. The one, the only, Jozer Guerrero.
My government name is Jose, but I chose the name Jozer as my stage name. Originally, it was given to me as like a hood name, like growing up in the hood. It stuck for a while. I mean, my mom calls me Jozer. Like, it's kind of weird. Yeah, so I mean, it's just kind of a name I embraced when I was younger. I kind of figured Jose, everybody's named Jose, right? And so let's switch it up, let's put a Z in there, let's add an R, and let's make something unique.
Yeah, you're known in so many different spaces. You work at Su Teatro. You are a lead singer in Los Mocochetas. And I've seen performances. I've seen videos of you. One of my favorites, you're doing about 4 different characters. You were just like charming, and the next minute you were scary, and the camera was like all up in your face.
That was actually a play that I did during the COVID time for a theater company in El Paso, Texas, which is actually my hometown. The play was fully in Spanish. It was a 2-person production, and so it was just me and this girl. I had never met her, right? Our only interactions were through her. And so it was really interesting. It was definitely challenging to act with someone over the screen when you're not directly next to them. But yeah, that character was really challenging. It was the 2 actors play about 5 or 6 different characters, and so for me, I saw it as a perfect opportunity to showcase like the range of my my acting ability.
I loved the range because some people, they're just used to seeing you on the stage, all charming and dancing and whatnot. But at one point, your character got scary. We don't see you as that way, and then to see you play a character that all of a sudden was like threatening and aggressive. What brought you to make that decision to want to play a character like that?
Asked me as that role, and so my job as an actor is to step into that role. And sometimes that allows you kind of put yourself in the shoes of these people. It forces you to kind of like view the world from their perspective, and in a way that is really, really healing in a way. Like you understand yourself, you understand also why other people are acting and behaving a certain way, and also it allows you to forgive people a lot easier, right? But this character that you're talking about was actually the father, so I had to step into more of an abusive role. You have to kind of tap into to some some other folks that you may know that act in a similar way, or from your own experiences. And I think a lot of good actors know how to react to these things truthfully, and that I think a lot of us as people of color have dealt with a lot of traumatizing or scarring moments in our lives that we can draw from as actors. At the end of the day, I have to remind myself as an actor, I am just acting, right? This is not me. This is not going to stay with me. As soon as I finish this role, I shake it off and I am back to myself,
So can I ask, what was the name of the play?
Cosas de Muchachos.
Okay.
And that translates to issues of young people. I think that's the beauty of theater and thespians. There's no thing that could stop us, right? I mean, the famous saying is the show must go on, right? And,
right.
Even if there's a pandemic, or if we're in a different state, the director did a really great job. I was really proud of the work that we did as a group.
What would you say first? Because I know that you are a musician, you're an actor. Is there one that you have more of a passion for, or is it both the same for?
That's a great question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that before. See, I started as an actor. That was really the only venue that I had at the time. But when I was a young kid, I always wanted to be in a band or making music. I remember the first song I wrote, I was about 5 years old. It got this little little whistle, little instrument. I was just making little beats out of that thing, and I wrote a song. Um, and I still remember the words to the song to this day. But my parents were like blown away. They were like, "Oh my God, like you're
Mhm.
5 years old and you wrote a song, and it's actually like a pretty good song." So I think at that moment they kind of realized that this is kind of my what I was destined to do. I've secretly always wanted to be like a singer in a band, right, or like
Mhm.
involved in music in some sort of way. My family comes from Juarez. We didn't really have access to music or to musical instruments, where I come from, and so eventually, once I got when I came to the United States, I kind of just was never really inclined or pushed to pursue that. I was automatically pushed, to think I was going to be a construction worker or some sort of labor.
Mhm.
And in fact, I remember in kindergarten, I had an interaction with the teacher who asked, we do that whole career day. What are you going to do when you grow
Mhm.
up? And I drew a singer, like a lead singer, right? I put a microphone on this cat's hand, and I that's what I drew. And I remember the teacher telling me, maybe you do something more like a construction worker or like a driver or a bus driver or something. And I
Dang.
remember
I'm glad you
feeling
didn't
so
listen.
confused, right? I remember feeling so confused and like I was like, what do you mean? Like everybody else is getting like a high five or like a and I remember as a young boy feeling like, damn, right? And the beauty of it was that um my mother convinced me since I was a very young child that I was amazing, right? Like
Mm.
and I think that was pretty different than some of my classmates, right, who were doubting themselves and who were like double guessing. They didn't want to raise their hand and answer the question because they
Mhm.
didn't feel confident. Right? My mom told me, "You are the most intelligent. You are the most handsome. You are the most like everything." Right? And she might have
Yeah.
lied to me. She might have lied a little bit, but I believed it. And at some point, I started believing it so much that I was not going to be denied. I had this passion for such a long time. So I think music was ultimately my main passion, and everything else was kind of like an
Mhm.
opportunity for me to start developing the performer that I am today. Acting gave me my vocal training, right?
Mhm.
I had a natural feeling for the music, but as a person who's been around for a long time, you can see when somebody can sing and somebody who's not practicing the correct techniques, right? Like Bob Marley is a perfect example. He was never like a perfect singer, but the
Mhm.
passion in his voice, you can hear it. So I
Right.
think that the acting, it kind of allowed me to combine both, but also have some technique. And so if it wasn't for theater and acting, I would never even have taken the courage or gathered the courage to become a singer, And most
Mhm.
people don't know this, but Mocochetes is my first project ever. I recorded some hip hop music in the past, but as far as singing, like this is the
Mhm.
first chance or first crack I took at being a singer
Yeah.
and feeling confident in that. So I think music was always my ultimate passion. And you forgot about the poetry too, bro. Like the poetry the poetry was another because when you do theater it's like you're kind of waiting for folks to
Mhm.
cast you and to
Right.
give you a role,
Right.
but in spoken word I was able to write myself a role, right,
Right. Right.
and use my acting skills, and so that but at the end of the day I think music was my main the original seed that was planted in my soul.
Right, right. And I didn't even know, dude. I didn't even know that you rapped until that one night. I think it was at the Roxy. You guys were the Mocochetas, you guys were performing. And then afterwards, um, we're all hanging out somewhere. And I remember what was it, Ill Seven? Like we were all just hanging out and they're just throwing beats and rapping. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, you just start busting out these lyrics. And I was like, what? Wait a minute, hold up a second, And
Yeah.
you were just flowing just so freely, all freestyle. And I was like, dang, dude, is there anything that Hoser can't do?
Well, in the city of Denver you can't really be an artist or like a you can't survive as an artist if you're not if you don't have multiple weapons under your belt.
Mhm.
we're not LA, where you can like make it as an actor. We're not, other places where you can be a recording artist and that's all you can do. I teach, I act, I recite poetry, I do film, I do music, of course, with the band, and then my solo project. So at the moment, I have my hands, dipped in in a lot of things, and that's the only way you could do it out here.
You look very pleased. Like you look satisfied right now with all these different outlets. I've noticed, anyways, with your countenance, you're not limiting yourself. You're literally allowing yourself to be challenged to do these different things and to not be put in a box.
I think that one of the earliest things I learned as an artist is that very quickly society and managers and labels and publishers, they try to place you in a box, right? Like
Mhm.
that's the first step that they do. And
Right.
I think that that's strategic, right? They try to do that because they want to give you the best chance at succeeding. But artists like myself and Los Mocochetes, we try to challenge that box.
Mhm.
We try to, because that's the reality. We're not one dimensional, right?
Right.
Like I am influenced by many different things and many different artists and many different people, and so uh, you can't label me as one thing. And I think in the
Mhm.
past that's been the norm, and I think some artists have been pushing that and trying to create uh, that different movement where we can experiment and play with more than one sound.
Mhm.
And I'll be honest, because we do that, Los Mocochetes have been like, our success has been limited. Constantly fighting those boxes. We're constantly, fighting, and at some point, it's gonna be like, for all right, like, come on, we
Yeah.
gotta, these guys have been working at it and doing it for so long, eventually it's gonna crack. But this,
Mhm.
it's not just that. Like when you become when you rap about like, police brutality and like social justice, you
Mhm.
get put in a box too. That's what this album is about. I wanted to challenge myself. This is all going off of that question. So I want to challenge myself
Yeah.
and not just say I'm not just a political rapper. Right? I'm not just a political artist. Everything I do in a way is political, and it will always be.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't have to always do that. And so this album focuses more on uh, on having fun and not just focusing on the negative all the time,
Mhm.
because at some point we have to take a breath from all of this work, right? We have to go celebrate with friends.
Yes.
We
Yes.
have to go, share drinks, and we can't let all of this like keep us inside and
Right.
discourages from being in community.
Mhm.
And so that's what this music is about. It's about celebration. It's about honoring yourself. It's about, gathering with your folks, gathering with your people, and making sure we let the folks out there know that we're here and we're gonna be loud, and
Yeah.
we're gonna have fun, and there's nothing you can do about it. So there's 7 tracks on the album. It's coming out June 24th.
Okay.
Is the date that the album will be coming out. And on June 24th, we'll be doing a set at the Lost Lake on Colfax.
Oh, okay.
And
Yes.
so you best expect that show will sell out.
Oh,
We
yeah.
have John Rubio joining us on the bill, with Gatiria. We also have Ray Reed, who is on fire right now. He's a local MC rapper from the city. And John Rubio is also the drummer for Los Mocochetes, but most folks didn't know that he was also a fire MC.
Oh,
He's doing
yeah.
some cool music. So he's going to be opening up, and they're all part of the bill. It's going to be a great night, a great team behind it. Got my boy Clever. He's my manager, and he's been putting in a lot of work. He's also the manager for a band named Neoma.
Mm.
Um,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
so he was really believing in the project. Once I showed him the music, he was like, "Oh, I'm so happy that we did this." And so we've been working hard for the last few months. We finalized production, and so now songs are getting mixed and mastered. We already have, I think, 5 tracks that are finished,
yeah. Mhm.
but we got 2 more to be done, and the album will be ready. And so June 24th, it is coming out. It's on schedule. Everything is going smooth. We're working with Soundbreaker from a company from Ecuador, actually, and so we're trying
Mm.
to get that Central American
Yes.
the vibes leaking into
Mhm.
Mexico. And of course, this music is bilingual in Espanol y en Inglés, everything. And it's, it's fire. And I've been sharing this music with close friends. And so I'm going to send this over to you soon after we finish this so you can check it out. It's a lot
Yeah,
different than
absolutely.
Mocochete's work. It's not like if you're thinking, all right, Joser from Mocochetes, you think it wrong, right? This is not
Right.
Joser from Moco. This is Joser G. It's a whole different thing. Clear your mind when you
I'm
listen
excited,
to
man.
it.
I'm ready for it. I really think as an artist, like there's always got to be, evolution. There's always got to be being willing to try this and try that, and I think it's important because if you don't, you become stagnant.
Look at Snoop Dogg. Like that man is still working.
Uh-huh.
He's done a reggae. He just worked with the Mexican banda. And then
Mhm, mhm.
like that man has been around for ages.
Yeah.
He continues to evolve, and I think that you're right. As an artist, you have to continue and to learn and to grow. And the moment that you think you know it all is the moment that you became a fool.
Mm. Years ago, not even, maybe more like 4 years ago, there was this, competition. It was like a reality show, and, it was hip hop and rap, but it was kind of like a rap battle. Did you ever watch that? Performers on there, but they were all people that were actually, they were talented. And it was to, obviously get these people exposed. And in the end, the person that won the competition, his name's D Smoke, and he raps in Spanish and English. And so after winning, Snoop Dogg kind of like took him under his wing and, mentoring him. And they've done a couple of songs together and stuff. And that's one of the things that I really like, that I appreciate about you is that you're not stingy with your shine. You reach out to the younger people. No, like I'm gonna make you feel like a bug. It's more of like, here, let me show you this. Let me guide you.
If you work in this industry long enough, you will see how dog eat dog, world it is.
Mhm.
Everyone is really out here looking out for themselves, and I realized that very early. One of the first things I did that got me some success was this competition called Brave New Voices, which was premiered and aired by HBO. It's even wilder to think that they've been exploiting and making money off of that for the past 20 years or something.
Mm.
And I have made 0 cents from that whatsoever.
What? Oh.
Um, and so I very young I realized, that it was like, folks are gonna use your work, and then they're gonna like you have to make it. They're not going to really help you. It's like that whole idea of I'm giving you a platform, right? Like, and that's enough payment.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
at some point, when you're starting, you take a lot of those opportunities. But then you also realize that, like you can't get past a certain level without help. And I gotta be honest. And when I started as an MC and as a poet in this community, in the poetry community, it was a bit different because there was a lot of mentorship happening. Ken Arkine is one of those people that taught me. Bobby Lefebvre, who is our poet Colorado poet laureate right now.
Mhm.
He's one of my biggest mentors, and I've known that guy since I was 15 at working at Su Teatro.
Mhm.
And Ken Arkine, Susie Q. Smith, right? Panama Soweto. There's a few other cats out there who's always been Jovan Mays, who are always helpful. When the reality is that in the hip hop community, it was like I was like, "Yo, man, help me out. Let me get some beats, or let me, et cetera, et cetera." And folks was hating. Nobody
Mm.
was trying to take care of. And we're talking like 16-year-old Hoser, right?
Right.
Looking at like the OGs and being like, and I'm not gonna call them out, right? I only shout out people when I give them positive shout. You know what I mean? Like when I get in that position, right? Because I knew at some point I was gonna be in that same position. When
Mhm.
I get in that position, I'm never gonna be a hater like that. I'm gonna
Mhm.
be helping everybody. I'm gonna make sure they come up. And for me, at the point in my life right now, that's not even an option, right?
Mm.
Not making it right is not a reality in my mind right now in the way that I'm thinking in my. If something happened and something went wrong, my legacy will live on through my students, right?
Mhm.
And And when you ask them, where did this start? Like you're asking me right now, or like you asked me in this interview, they're gonna bring up, Jozer was there for me in the beginning. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And I think that at the end of the day, as artists, the teaching aspect is like the most fulfilling, because you get to see the change happen so much faster, right? Like people can hear my song and I might never even meet them, right? But with the student, you see that impact happening in front of
Mhm.
your eyes, right? And it's so
Right.
rewarding, and it's so powerful to see a student who refused or who could not use their voice switch it around, turn it around, and use it as an instrument, as a tool more than a
Mhm.
weapon. So, that's why I do that. And it was taught to me through Su Teatro. It was taught to me, through the organizations that I work at. One of my teachers yesterday, it's ironic, their son plays on the same basketball team as my son. And we were talking, and he was like, and he's actually one of my employees. I work at his school now every single day. And
Mhm.
he told me, man, do you remember when you were a student and when I was your teacher? He said, do you remember how much of a pain in my ass you were? And he said, is it true? What goes around comes around. And, it is true. And I told him at some point I would never be a teacher. I told him, look at me now, look at me now.
Oh, man, that's hilarious. We have radio, which is supposed to be free, but they literally pick and choose who they wanna play, you know? And I think about how you were saying that, you like to be able to plant these seeds, and I think it's important. One of those people that music is my medicine, without a doubt. There's I cannot function without music. I think that is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you be one of the first, as far as a guest, speaker on here, was because I believe in your work. I wish everybody worked like that. I wish every musician that we had out there had that same hustle, that it's not just for me, it's not just to make a name. It's like you turn around and say, "You know what? Let me pass the mic." It's powerful.
It could be very easy that we could just be like, like I know you said earlier that, I was one of the lead singers of Los Mocochetes, right? And I think that's kind of what makes the band cool, is that everyone gets a voice, everyone.
Mhm. I love it.
Young people, I was in that position at some point, right? And everyone was like, man, I believe in this young cat. And if someone didn't do that for me, then I know, I mean, I don't have to exaggerate, right? Like, just you could look it up. You can search up my criminal record. Like, I
Yeah.
would be in prison. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I was headed in a terrible path, and what happened if I didn't find this path, and my biggest thing is that when I go into these classrooms, right, immediately young people are tied or like come to me,
Mhm.
and the main reason is because I look like their tío, you know,
Mhm.
I look like their uncle Pepe, or like something,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. If most folks look at Denver and they think, it's like a cowboy like town or something, like, nah, bro. Like this city is about to be a majority brown folk, like
Uh-huh.
tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
in a lot of
Absolutely.
places you go to, like in my neighborhood right now in the Westwoods, you can come over here and not speak one word of English and manage completely fine. You know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's like this is a diverse city, and it's really interesting, and I think a lot of our youth struggle with that, not seeing like themselves in the educators. And
Mhm.
when they see me come in the classroom and I'm like, what up, right? Like, and I say what up,
Yeah.
immediately they're like, I like this guy, like just by
Yeah.
saying what up instead of saying hello. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
I come from the same hood that they come from. I come from the same experiences. I live through the same things and the struggles that they go through. And so I think that it, the most important thing for me is that I want them to know that someone cares, and I want them to know that there is an opportunity and there is other options, right?
Mhm.
Other than what they tell us every day. And I'm so blessed to work for Su Teatro, dog. Like, I'm gonna give them
Mm.
a huge shout out. Like, Su Teatro bailed me out
Yeah.
from jail when I was a kid, right? Like when I was 15, like I had my son when I was 16, and Su Teatro gave me a job, right? They've always been supportive, right?
Mhm.
And so they understand and they see the value in that too, they help me, and so now it's my duty to give back through their organization. So if you have any teens and young folks who are looking for jobs in the summer,
Mhm.
have them go to our website and apply, because we have an internship and we pay young people to basically take workshops for at the theater, and learn how to work in the theater, learn lights, learn sound, learn
Mhm.
acting.
First thing I thought of was a saying that I've heard people say with regards to when you work with youth. And this saying that I heard, which really, I don't know, it really struck me, but it was just this person had said, this one person was asking another person. And the first person said, like, I want to work, with these kids, but I'm not really sure, like, how, like, how do I, how do I reach them? Like, I don't even know. And the other person said, the best thing you can do is be the adult that you needed when you were their age. Be that, be the support, be the words. And I feel like I see that with you. Representation, it matters. It matters. Kids need to be able to walk in a classroom and see, okay, this person's the same color as me, or is the same culture, or this, speaks the same language. But they need that, one, because I think it gives them hope, but then the other thing too is it helps them not feel alone. Would you agree with that? Or
Yeah, and beyond that, like, I think oftentimes, like, teachers, for example, I remember one time I got in trouble. Like, this is gonna be like, people are gonna be like, oh my God. I got in trouble in elementary school
Mhm.
because my friend, and my friend's name was Luis, and I won't say his last name, but his name was Luis, and he was crying. Right? We were in fifth grade, right? So, like, it's in fifth grade. We're still in elementary, so we're still 10.
Mhm.
And the kid was crying, and so I walk up to him and I said, "What's wrong, fool?"
Yeah.
And I get sent to the principal's office because I called him a fool. Any person that live in the hood, right? Like, come on, man. Like, even
Yeah.
people that don't live in the hood can understand that I am not calling him a fool. I am not insulting him, right?
Mhm.
Like, and come on, I'm trying to ask my homie how he's feeling, like.
Yeah, yeah.
And for us, like, that word, right? Like, what up, fool? Like, it doesn't mean an
Mhm.
idiot, or it doesn't mean, someone who's not intelligent. And for me to be sent to the office on some bull like that, like,
Yeah.
clearly proves that there is a cultural difference. Right?
Mhm.
And, like, as much as my teacher was trying to be cool, whatever, like, she thought she was being really considerate to my homie's feelings or whatever, like, she was being completely, like, clueless and, like, dumb. You know what I mean? Like, the
Yeah.
slang that her kids use every single day in the classroom. Like, and that's one example that that I experienced, but, like, I see it all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
The truth is, it's nothing.
Right.
Like, this is who I am, and
Mhm.
that aspect of it makes my student respect me more than their teachers that they deal with every single day. Representation matters, and most importantly, I think that a lot of these young people would be way more successful if someone was patient with them. Right?
Mhm.
Oftentimes, they don't consider, like, yo, why didn't you do your homework? It's like, maybe it's because my mama didn't remind me, right? Like, other
Mhm.
people's mom be over there sitting there with them, you know what I'm saying? Or maybe it's because I had, my mom got, into a beef with my dad, and there was a whole fight in the living room. Like, how am
Yeah.
I supposed to do my homework? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
stuff like that, like, most folks would be like, oh, well, too bad you got an F,
Mhm.
and with me, it's like, I can understand that. I can relate to that. I came from the same background. I came from the same experiences. And so I
Mhm.
got to, you know what I mean? And I
Right.
think a lot of our kids need that, especially in the hood. And they need the arts to be able to have a source of expression that is not negative, that is not violent, right?
Mhm.
Where they can express their emotions.
I was having a conversation, I think it was yesterday, with someone, and we were talking about how we believed art is a vital part of mental health. Because if you talk to psychiatrists and psychologists, a lot of times when they're when they are gathering a treatment plan for somebody, they'll always encourage them, like learn an instrument, go learn to paint, do something to tap into that side of your brain. Every single student that I talk to, when you ask them, like, who's your favorite teacher and why, they will always say what you said. They will always say, this person understands, this person knows. I talked to a student the other day, and she said, I have friends that they're homeless. They're living in the car. These teachers, certain teachers that she was acknowledging, she said they understand that. They know that. So when they come in and they look like they've only had 2 hours of sleep, it wasn't because they were getting high. It wasn't because they were having sex all night. It's because it was freezing and they were in their car. And that's why they didn't get their homework done, because they don't have a laptop
or internet.
Exactly. And that's a reality. I mean, number one, top of the list, their favorite teacher is their favorite because they understand.
When I was a kid, even to this day, there are certain points I had to teach myself to not distrust every white person that I meet.
Right.
Like, and I know that to some folks that might sound offensive, right? It might, then some folks might say, "Oh, that's reverse racism," right?
Like, right.
But no, it's just like from every experience that I had in my life, right, I was given that reason,
Right.
I remember the first time I went to jail as a 5th grader. And I remember my principal called the cops on me, right? Because I had fireworks, after the day after 4th of July.
Wow.
It was considered a firearm, and so I was in 5th grade facing a felony weapon charge. I remember I was just trying to be American, like I was trying to 4th of July, and like,
yeah.
And now I'm getting punished for this,
Mm-hmm.
But then I quickly realized, because I was like, there's no way they're gonna harass me, like I'm a kid, right?
Right.
I very quickly realized that as a brown boy, the feeling of like, so I realized like it's not the same for me, as a brown person. Like I'm always going to be viewed slightly different,
Right.
I also just realized that this whole thing was set up for us to fail. I think about how many students I prevented from going to the Gilliam, or
Yeah.
going to ROP, just by listening and by hearing them. All this is benefiting, and I hope that other folks like me, other brown folks in there, there's not a lot of male teachers either, especially a male of color.
I grew up in the barrio over in Southern California. And, of course, part of that whole scene is you've got your machismo. There's certain things that our men don't do. There's still some people who believe that, real men don't act. They don't do theaters. What's that? But then I think about certain actors, Edward James Olmos, and just how the fact that because he pursued theater, because he pursued acting, he delivered so many fantastic movies, so many different characters. Obviously the first one was Zoot Suit, which is one of my top fives. But he's done so many movies that I know for me, when I see him, I'm like, oh, hey, that's us. That's us on there. That's me. Hey, look at that. Talking my language, using the Spanglish. Our kids need to see that, whether it be elementary, middle school, even college, but they need to see that there's options. Like no wonder kids drop out. No wonder
Yep.
kids turn to selling drugs. I mean, no wonder kids turn into, go into to gangs, because that's where they connect. That's where they feel they belong. The work that you do helps provide that. Even if it's someone that you will never meet, but there are seeds being planted.
The gangs, the violence, all that stuff, that was at some point that was all a part of my life. You know what I mean? And if it wasn't for art, and if it wasn't for poetry, and if it wasn't for music and acting and theater, and when you think about it, like you see me and you have this potential, you have all this talent, this and that. And I think about all my homies who were way tighter than me.
Yeah.
I was a kid, like I told you, since I was little, I wanted to be this, right? And I remember some of those cats that had more talent than me, or that maybe, had more skill or more
More
swag or whatever.
swag. Yeah.
And here I am, right? And I'm doing this now, and I talk to some of these cats now, and they're deep in the gang banging, right? Or like
Mhm,
they just got out of prison, right? And they're like, yeah, man, it's so good to see you doing like what we always dreamed of doing,
mhm,
and that, it hurts sometimes to see it that way, but at the same time, it's like, I think that's what we're trying to do, is to, to at least show them that window, so that they know that there's other options, that you don't just have to, gang bang, that you don't, I'm talking about like when I was in college, like I was like out there committing crimes, you know what I mean? Because
mhm, mhm.
I thought like, oh, I'm gonna fail college. Like
Yeah.
my fallback plan was gang banging and like robbing folks, you know what I mean? Like, and even as a person who had all these opportunities, who had been on HBO, who had been in films, right? Who had a son and who's doing this positive stuff, even then the hood was still in my ear, like constantly, you know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah, and I think that that's a real battle, people don't realize that, but if you grew up in the barrio, if you grew up in certain spaces, that's all you know, that was it, this is it, this is all we have, and thank God my mom, she's the one that she saw me and my sister starting to dress a certain way and act a certain way, and she was like, "Oh, hell no," and she got us out of there, and we moved into this completely white neighborhood, and it was culture shock. It was culture shocks, and I'm sitting there like, I'm not supposed to trust these people. Like, what is happening? You know? And I had to learn. I had to learn that you got to look past the skin color. And even then, it was still challenging because, like you said, some teachers just didn't want to, they didn't want to give that extra 2 minutes to explain something because, it's, she's probably just going to get pregnant. She's probably just going to get married and it doesn't even matter. I honestly didn't know any better. I thought that they were right, like, okay, I guess I am supposed to just get pregnant and married. And it wasn't until a counselor pulled me aside and she said, "You know what? I'm looking at your records. You're looking at your grades." And I was like, "Okay." And she looks at me and she said, "You know what? You keep this up. You're going to have a full scholarship to UCLA." And I was like, "What?"
LA.
Yeah, I was like, "What? Say what?" I mean, I don't wanna go to UCLA, but for real? And she said she was surprised. "No one ever told you?" I was like, "No, no. I was just going to school and gonna graduate and that's it, ya solo." And she's the one that put it in my head. At that time, I was like, "Well, I think I wanna be a lawyer." You
That's
know?
exactly what I wanted to do too.
And I could see it, out of all the years that I was in high school and out of all the different teachers and different counselors, she was the only one. She was the only one that said, "You can do this."
Yeah, all it took, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's all it took.
All of a sudden it was like, "Wait, hold up. I can go to college? Me?"
Right.
Like I thought I was just supposed to graduate. Like, "Oh no. Oh no, no, no."
And when I was in high school, I actually got expelled from quite a few different districts.
Wow.
So I ended up at this school called the Denver Inner City Parish. If it wasn't for them, man, I mean, like most folks don't even know this. Like, I got the Daniels Fund Scholarship, and like
Mm,
I had a full ride to whatever fucking college I wanted to go to, right?
yeah.
And of course, I chose DU, not because it was one of the most prestigious universities, not because it was at that time one of the most expensive universities in the country.
Mm.
It's like 60,000 something, for one year, and
Oh my gosh.
it
Okay.
was insane, right? And there's
Mhm.
no way I would have ever went to that university if it wasn't for the scholarship, right? And
Mhm.
the reality is, if I would have stayed at any of those other schools that I got expelled from, I would have never been nominated for the Daniel Scholarship, because I went to, La Academia, and La Academia was, I mean, it's called La Academia. It's in Spanish. Every teacher there was Chicano. They all understood.
Mm.
And it's funny because now, as an educator, I work with all of my teachers, like all of them,
Wow.
to some degree, in some capacity. So they're
Mhm.
still out there putting in the same work that they were when I was a student. And They would have never even thought I was worthy enough to apply.
Dang.
And I did, and I applied, and I got into DU. If I don't get into DU, then I guess I won't go to college, even though I had a full ride, like my dumb like kid mentality.
Yeah.
So luckily I got in and I got a great education, right? But most folks don't realize that they think, they see me, I still have this like ghetto perspective and approach, and
Uh-huh.
I'm an artist. And most people were like, "Oh, this guy must have not got educated or not with this sort of education." But
Yeah.
and if it wasn't for those folks supporting me, man,
Mhm.
they would be right. When I was in middle school, in 7th grade, I ran a 4:47 mile.
Mhm.
So in 4 minutes and 47 seconds, I ran an entire mile. And so that happened for a little bit. And then the contract went out. We got a contract with Adidas, right? And they sponsored us. By the time I got into high school, I was doing bad. I was, in the
Mhm.
streets. I wasn't focused. And so I lost some of those deals. And that whole time, I got to do whatever I wanted. Right? And everyone was like making exceptions for me because they were like, this kid's going to make it, right? Like he's going to be an
Mhm.
elite athlete. In my freshman year in high school, after we qualified for state, because I was doing so bad, they kicked me out, right? So they just used me to qualify, and then
Mm.
they expelled me from the school.
Wow.
And then I went to West, and then they expelled me right after count day. When I was good, people were willing to invest in me,
Right.
right? So it was early on. But for the arts, it was about sophomore year, right? And there
Mhm.
was Charlene Ramirez Mares, who is currently still working in education. And she encouraged me to audition and try out for Su Teatro. Um, and
Wow.
she was like, "You never shut up, right? You center of attention, like try out, right?" And it was always my dream. Like I was like always like, "Oh my god, I just want to. I don't care what stage, I don't care what I'm doing, poetry, music, whatever.
Yeah.
I just want to be on stage."
Yeah.
So and it was weird because my first show I ever did as an actor was a professional show at Su Teatro called Olin. And I know we talked about Zootsu earlier. It was directed by Daniel Valdez, who starred in Zootsu.
Oh
That
my
was
gosh, I love him.
my first introduction, right? Like Daniel
Dang, that's
Valdez.
amazing.
Yeah, and I was 15 or something, right? And so after that, I was like, "Yo, let's do this." Nika
Uh-huh.
Garcia de Benavides too. She was one of the teachers at or the offered the class, Su Teatro class at my school, and so she believed in me
Mhm.
ever since I was little. She bailed me out multiple times from jail, right? Like she's always believed in me. She's always like tried to advocate for me, and that's like honestly, like I see her as like a big sister.
Yeah.
We have a great relationship, and so those are the two people that really encourage and help,
Yeah.
made me believe that this was a reality.
I think it's important, people have at least one person that champions for them. So I remember a few months ago, I had interviewed you and the guys for Los Mocochetes for an article. And I remember during that time, I threw it out there and I had said, man, you guys are just getting better and better. And, what needs to happen is you guys need to perform with Chicano Batman. And I remember your reaction. I remember you shook your head and you smiled and you're like, I wish, like, I was like, why not? You guys, and I've seen you guys evolve. I've seen you from the first time I've seen you guys years ago to you guys doing the main stage at UMS, and you guys killed it, you know? And so I remember throwing that out there and I remember everyone's reaction, like, and then lo and behold, what happens? What? On social media, I see this announcement that you and the band drop about you. I want to cry about it because I'm so proud of you guys. And I feel like I saw this coming. The announcement that you are performing with Chicano Batman.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
But because you were a big part of like a big influence, you and Ian, in us getting that slot for that main stage, you know, at
Mhm.
UMS.
It was time.
For us, it felt like personal. It was like, who else should open for you? Like, you know, like it's really perfect band to
Yeah,
like, for you guys to
absolutely.
do a show with. In my mind, I was like, bro, if we play with Chicano Batman, bro, we might like, you know, because you've seen our shows, right? We leave every every drop of sweat on that stage, right? Like
Yes.
we
Yes.
run around, we try to have a blast, we try to put on the best shows possible. So I'm like, maybe they
I personally like it when you take your shirt off and you, like, start climbing the beams.
may move, but you know they might not be able to match that move. So maybe that's why they didn't want us to come play with them. You know,
You know, I'm just
I know
saying.
those Lonely Boys, they were haters, right?
They were?
I don't
No.
even care. I'll call them out publicly, right?
What?
They
That's
were
so
haters. They
disappointing.
refused to shake our hand. They refused to come out. They actually asked us to clear the hallway.
Mhm.
They know who we are, you know,
Yeah.
and I think this one they asked, you know, like they suggested that it would be us, and so I think that's why it was undeniable, and I think that's why we're on the bill and
Sold out quick. Very,
quick,
very quick.
yeah. And
But
I
I'm
mean,
happy for you guys, man. I'm excited. It's about
what we
freaking
do.
time.
I'll be honest, like I know I said earlier, like if it wasn't for this music and the art stuff, like I probably wouldn't have, you know, I'd be in jail or prison or whatever.
Mhm.
But honestly, I think the reality was my son. Right? I realized that I had to take care of another human being. One of the first like poems that I like when I knew I was gonna do this for a living, when I was gonna write and perform, I was locked up in the Gill at the Gilliam, which is the city juvenile detention center on like 30th and Downing.
Mhm.
And I got arrested at Denver South High School for striking a police officer.
Mm.
And I was trying to leave campus because I was trying to go pick up my son, and they didn't understand that, like that a high school student has a son that he has to go pick up.
Right.
So I was in there, you know, I had a lot of time to think
Yeah.
about stuff, you know, and I try to make that my focus in my whole life, you know, is making sure that my son has a
Mhm.
better life than I ever did, and that he has all of the opportunities that I never had. He loves to play basketball, and I've been coaching his middle school team for the past few years, and his club team as well. I think he thinks his dad is talented but kind of lame, and I take his feedback. Like
Mhm.
I don't know, you know that song "Guaraches," right?
Yeah, yeah.
He was like, "Dad, you're a good rapper, but like, why don't you rap some cool stuff? Throw me a song that you like, you know?" And
Yeah.
he played that Versace, Versace, Versace.
Yeah.
The Migos
Yeah.
and Drake. I wrote that song and he was like, "Yo, that's fire, dude." You know, like that's fire. If he likes the song, then it's a hit. You know,
Yeah.
that's how I see it. Like, yo, if he
Right.
likes it, it's gonna go. And so he's getting older. I think I'm having a hard time as a parent. Like, my baby doesn't want to hang out with
Oh,
me.
I know. That's so hard.
Yeah, and he used to go like when there's this spot called the Mercury Cafe here.
Is
It's actually like the oldest open mic in the whole state of Colorado, and like the third oldest open mic in the whole United States. JT would go when he was like 3
Mhm.
and not cry. Go, he would snap. He got
Nice.
trained at a very early age, and
Mhm.
he was at the theater at su teatro when
Mhm.
he was 3 days old. Um, but you know, whatever he decides to do, he's gonna be amazing, dude. And he's intelligent, he's creative, he's so smart, and he has a word or a power for words too. And
Mhm.
I think honestly, if he wants to, he could be in films right now, right? And he
Mhm.
wants to focus on his basketball and stuff. But you
Mhm.
know, I think he sees and he knows. I mean, he's seen his daddy almost get stabbed, right? He's seen
Mhm.
his daddy like get locked up, right? He's seen his daddy, you know, get pulled over and go, you know what I'm saying? Like he's
Mhm.
seen all of it. Also endured a lot, you know, and like he, you know, his mother isn't present in his life, right? And
Mhm.
you know, and she, you know, she left him when he was about 3 years old.
Mm.
He struggles with a lot of things, but I think at the end of the day, he is an incredible human being. And, you know, that's my biggest concern in life, dude. I don't give a what people think about my music. I
Mhm.
don't give a damn about what people think about my acting. The only thing I'd be concerned about is what my son thinks about me.
Yeah.
And I think that as a musical artist, that might be like a weakness. Like
No.
you're thinking about your son, like, and you're not thinking about your career. I think he helps me with my career, and I think he's helped me. In fact, I think he's almost like a guardian angel to me.
People will comment about some of the work that I do, and the thing that I do is for my kids. The work that I do is because I want a better world for my kids. There is a part of me that was thinking that you have a choice. I know that there are people out there that they're hurt by their parents, physically, sexually, whatever. Um, some kids, they're neglected. Some kids get abandoned.
It took a long time. Think about it. Like, I was 16 years old. I thought I had this plan. It wasn't easy. It was a hard transition. I had to learn. I was a kid
Mm,
raising a kid. And so
yeah.
I had to learn how to grow up. Also, how me do is be more sensitive and like be more feminine in a way, because
Mhm.
I had to play the role of the mother as well.
And just as Jozer was explaining what it felt like, the growth that was needed for him to become both the mother and the father to his son walked into the room, able to sit down with him so he could share with us what it felt like to be growing up as Jozer's son and how his dad's work impacts him. You grew up seeing your dad evolve from, this, teenager to where he is now.
I'm proud of him. And I don't know, we kind of like grew up together, I feel like. I went to the Edinburgh Scotland Festival, or what is it?
It's called the
Fringe Festival.
Fringe.
And yeah.
He was the youngest actor to ever participate in the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
What? That's amazing.
I don't think I was really excited as well.
Your dad said that there are times that when he raps or performs a song, and you've been honest and said that's kind of lame.
I'm just always honest with him, because I feel like, if you're not like honest, then it's like, what's the point of even saying anything? Because I know that he won't take it as like an offense.
He told me that you were a little guy and you'd be listening to poetry and snapping the fingers.
Yeah. I like the people that were there. I think he was really good at it.
So do you think your dad's a better rapper or singer?
I really do enjoy like his poetry.
And I just think it's really cool that you get to be his son.
Cool that I get to be his dad, fool.
Oh, there you go. He just schooled me. What would you probably say is like the biggest influence your dad is to you?
I think a role model, like he kind of just inspires me, because I see the way that he works. Like he'll stay up till like 3 a.m. writing songs.
Would you say like you've seen him when it's been a challenge?
Yeah, just many times, like he's been stuck, or he doesn't know what to do, or just like, yeah, he's just been stuck. I feel like it's just like he just finds a way to like have motivation and keep going. He just finds a way to like have motivation and keep going.
He speaks truth. And so I just really appreciate you, and more power to you.
No, thank you, dude. Thanks for having me. And I'm glad that I could be a part of this journey with you. I think that you have a very special voice, and that I think it's safe to say that for several parts, several populations in our hood, in our community in Denver, that you speak for them. I'm always glad to support you and all the cool things you do. And anytime that you ask for anything, we got your back. So we appreciate you, and you're a fucking gem to this community. So thank you, dude.
Oh, don't be making me cry. Shout out to Jozer and his son for joining me for this podcast episode. As always, big love to Armando Lopez for our intro music. For those of you that are interested, Jozer's show is going to be on June 24th, this Friday. Doors open at 8 at Lost Lake. Advance tickets are $15, but if you wait to the door, they're going to be $18. And this show is for 16 and over. Hope to see you there. Thanks again for listening to the Social Podcast. We're closing out this episode with a song by Jozer G, his first solo, Chile con Queso. Until next time, be good to each other.
Vamos a escaparnos al mar, vamos a nadar y tomar y gozar, vamos a la playa a cantar, vamos a Acapulco, quizá Mazatlán, hoy no vamos a ir a trabajar, no, vamos a jugar, a comer y brindar, vámonos que hay que celebrar, a crear más memorias que no olvidarás. Vamos persiguiendo el sol. El verano acabó, pero el party no terminó. Pack your bags, we gotta go. And bring your swimsuit y también el pasaporte. Hey, my gente running from the snow. And we ain't ready for Mariah, ella quiere más dembow.